Good morning, I'm Gary DeWaal, and this is Bridging the Week for July 10th to 14th, and today is July 17th, 2017. In an inaugural type speech last week, Jay Clayton, newly appointed chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission, advocated for kumbaya with other regulators, particularly with the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, in order to achieve greater harmonization of rules required under Dodd-Frank, as well as to reduce complexity and cost to both regulators and market participants. Separately, the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority settled more disciplinary actions for the alleged failure of two broker-dealers to fully comply with the SEC's current record-keeping requirements related to electronic brokerage records. The requirements are the same obligations that the CFTC is eliminating effective August 28th for being antiquated and not accommodating new technologies. Yesterday was Bastille Day in France, and I am still recovering from my celebration. So I can drink some more coffee and go back and rest some more as soon as possible. Let's get started. Jay Clayton, newly appointed chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission, enumerated 8 guiding principles that he says will govern his leadership. Among these are that regulatory actions cause change and can have long-term effects. Some may be positive, such as the U.S. Public Company Disclosure and Trading System, which he said, quote, is an incredibly powerful, efficient, and reliable means of making investment opportunities available to the general public, end of quote. However, he questioned whether the system is also causing a decline in the total number of U.S.-listed public companies in the last decade. He noted that during this period, quote, the median word count for SEC filings has more than doubled, yet readability of those documents is at an all-time low, end of quote. Likewise, Mr. Clayton said that coordination with other regulators is paramount. The SEC's new chairman committed to working with the Commodity Futures Trading Commission to find ways where the agencies can harmonize rules enacted under the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act related to over-the-counter swaps and to, quote, reduce unnecessary complexity as well as costs to both regulators and market participants, end of quote. Mr. Clayton enumerated his principles in an inaugural type speech before the Economic Club of New York on July 12th. 2 more broker-dealers, State Street Global Markets, LLC, and Acorn Securities, LLC, agreed to settle disciplinary actions filed by the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, charging them with violation of record-keeping rules of the Securities and Exchange Commission. In the action naming State Street, the firm agreed to pay a fine of $1.5 million to resolve FINRA's claim that, from November 4th, 2011 through April 21st, 2017, the firm failed to keep approximately 131.5 million electronic brokerage records of orders placed by certain of its institutional customers in a non-erasable and non-rewritable format known as WORM as required by SEC rule. According to FINRA, most of these records were of unexecuted orders. In addition, charged FINRA, State Street failed to store separately from the original duplicate copies over 245 million records of orders and up to approximately 52 million electronic communications, and to have an audit system to monitor the inputting of new records and changes to old records, also is required by SEC rule. Similarly, Acorn Securities, which acts as an introducing broker-dealer, consented to remit a fine of $175,000 for likewise failing to retain electronic records in WORM format and not implementing a required audit system, as well as not advising the examining authority of their intent to use such media at least 90 days in advance as currently required. Recently, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission approved a revised records retention rule that eliminated many of existing antiquated record-keeping requirements and to be technology neutral in order to accommodate future advances in record-keeping technology. The SEC should quickly consider amending its current record-keeping requirements in order to conform to the CFTC's new amended rule. And finally, Fei Yan, a postdoctoral associate at a major research university, was arrested on July 12th and charged with insider trading in connection with transactions and options on the stock of Stillwater Mining Company during November and December 2016, when, at the time, he allegedly knew through misappropriated non-public information that the firm was subject to takeover negotiations by Sibanye Gold Limited. He acquired this non-public information according to a complaint approved by the U.S. Attorney's Office located in New York City through conversations with a spouse who, at the time, was an associate at a law firm which had been retained by Stillwater to handle relevant legal matters. Shortly after many conversations with his wife, who worked on the Stillwater potential takeover for her employer, Mr. Yan purchased relevant options, which he sold after the announcement of Stillwater's acquisition on December 9th, charged the complaint. Moreover, claimed the complaint, many of Mr. Yan's purchases of Stillwater options followed his scrupulous research on the internet regarding how the Securities and Exchange Commission detects unusual trades and his review of related articles, including U.S. Insider Trading Goes Global and Want to Commit Insider Trading? Here's How Not to Do It. In connection with this matter, Mr. Yan was charged with 2 counts of securities fraud and 1 count of wire fraud. If convicted, Mr. Yan could be subject to substantial imprisonment and fines. Separately, Mr. Yan was also named in a civil complaint brought by the SEC related to the identical matter, as well as another similarly handled incident. Well, that's it for this week's edition of Bridging the Week. As always, there's more information in each article and more articles on the article version of Bridging the Week on the website. Check it out. I'm Gary DeWaal. Have a great week. And until the next edition of Bridging the Week, ciao.